let's go over some features why this Bubba'd SKS is not a good idea. One, this synthetic stock here weighs a lot. Another thing, when you try to convert an SKS to a magazine with 30 rounds, kind of similar to an AK-47, you run into the issue of magazine doesn't come out well. Also, you have feeding issues where sometimes rounds will go in, sometimes rounds will go straight up. So the traditional SKS is designed to use stripper clips. With the box magazine that comes with an SKS, with a detachable magazine, you're no longer able to use those stripper clips. The follower is supposed to lock the bolt back. Unfortunately, it does not. It doesn't have enough strength versus the traditional SKS box mag, which has a lifter that locks the bolt to the rear, which would make it easier to remove the magazine. As you can see, it will not come out when you hit the magazine release like a traditional AK would. The feed lips, I'm going to need 3 hands here to take this out. Let's see if I could do this. I'll pull back, press that, wiggle, and bam, got the magazine out. So the bolt is locking onto these feed lips as it's trying to load around into the chamber. And since the bolt's not locking to the rear, you can't get this out because it's caught on these feed lips. So, magazine, no good. Don't need that anymore. So, they took off the original bayonet that was on here. That would attach here. So we're going to reinstall that. The cleaning rod doesn't work because the synthetic is solid. It can't go through there. They also put a synthetic handguard on top to match. I mean, you might as well. You don't want wood up there when you got synthetic. So we're going to correct that issue, and we're going to go back to the original box mag. Let me go over the parts I got. Place the stock. I'm going to replace the top handguard. We're going to install a cleaning rod. We're going to install a bayonet. The original box mag. This is the bolt stop, and then the bolt stop pin, and then the bolt stop spring. I was lucky enough when I bought this firearm from a friend of mine. He kept the bayonet and the box mag. He did not have the cleaning rod or the wood. He's still looking for the wood, so if he does find it, I'll replace it with the original wood. They stamp the last 4 digits of the serial number. So when you hear someone refer to as all matching numbers, that means the bolt matches, the receiver matches, the stock matches. In this case, it's not going to be a matching numbers a particular firearm, but it will be back into the original configuration. Now, this stock didn't come this nice. I purchased this off of eBay for way too much money. No one should ever pay that much for a beat up piece of shit stock. So it was red, believe it or not. I don't know if it was paint or if it was like a shellac or some type of dye, but I chemically stripped it with some paint stripper, and then I did some natural Danish oil, and then I just coated it with some polyurethane for some durability. Same with the top handguard here. I'll throw some photos in there. If y'all want a video on how to refinish a stock, just tell me in the comment section below, and in the future I'll do a video on how to refinish stocks. But this particular one is just going to show you how to de-Bubba your SKS. Hey guys, this is a segment I like to call How Porky Is She? Let's see how heavy she weighs in at. Ooh, she's a fat one. We got 8 pounds, 12 ounces. So what kind of SKS do we have here? We have a Norinco. That means it was manufactured in China. Me personally, I like the Chinese SKSs. I find they're lighter in weight. I find they're very nicely made. The Russians are also very nicely made since they did invent the gun. A little bit more out of my price range than I'm willing to spend for an SKS. Now the owner of this particular gun just liked the synthetic stock, so he went ahead and went with the synthetic stock just because it was more comfortable for him as a shooter, and I totally get that. Me personally, I prefer it in the original configuration, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do. And let's debubba this. First thing you always want to do, make sure your gun's empty. We are unloaded. First thing we're going to do is take the sling off. I don't believe this is the original sling for a Bubba'd SKS, but I could be wrong on that. But I'm going to reuse it. I like it. It looks cool. Alright, we are empty. We're going to need... This is the hardest part of this whole configuration, is this right here. It is a spring metal piece that you have to push in, and behind here is a nice big spring, so your gun doesn't fall apart while you're shooting. Whew. Believe it or not, I had this apart like this morning. There we go. Just needed a little persuasion. So that will pop up. There's a nice Gorilla spring that we're fighting against. And this is also spring loaded. That's our trigger assembly. Now we're going to reuse this spring, so we got to get this out of the stock here. Put that off to the side. Alright. The stock is a little on the tight side, so we're going to grab the receiver. We're going to get a mallet. Let gravity work for us, not against it. Here's our nice heavy stock. See how much this weighs. How porky is she? 3 pounds 0 ounces. Yeah, she's a little porky. Original SKS. 1 pound 10 ounces. Ooh. Let's continue on. Alright, we're going to remove our bolt. We have a lever here. We're going to rotate that counterclockwise straight up. Alright, once you get it to this position here, we're going to pull towards our body. This is keyed. Now remember, it's under spring tension, not much at the moment with the bolt forward. So that's going to come forward. Our dust cover is going to come off. Bolt's going to come out. This gun is extremely clean. All the SKSs I've ever worked on for customers were filthy dirty. So my buddy took good care of this gun. It was clean. I've never bought a used gun from someone that wasn't dirty. I feel like they always go to the range, shoot the piss out of it, and giggle when they go and sell it to me. But not this guy. He's nice. Now we got to get our handguard off. Now, if you're going to use a screwdriver, you have to be extremely careful not to scratch your finish, like this has already been scratched multiple times. But I can tell you, this little lever is tight. Now you want to make sure this is in the up position, otherwise you will damage your gun. There is a massive spring behind here that's retaining a piston. You do not want that to shoot across the room. Alright, this is retaining that big spring I was telling you about. I'm going to put my finger here, I'm going to rotate this out the way. That's going to release that. You always want to make this inert. Otherwise, when you're not looking, it's going to go another dimension. Alright, we got our long stroke piston here. It's got our last 5 digits of our serial number here on our gas tube. That's pretty cool. Let's see, our bolt carrier's got the last 5. And our bolt. Oh, I think the trigger guard should have it too. Nope, not this one. Some of them stamp it right here. This is our bolt catch. This is our bolt catch spring. There's a hole drilled right here. The spring's going to go there. And we're going to put our bolt catch. That's going to slide into a groove here. We got our bolt catch here, and then we got our, as you can see, this is under spring tension. I can lift it up with my finger, let go, it shoots down. That's what we want to see. Now what keeps all that together is this one pin here. I'm going to use some fancy tools just because I have them. Alright, so this is a pin holder. Hold your pin so it doesn't slip. Now I know everyone's not going to have that. You can just use a traditional punch, and you're just going to have to put your finger on the side to try to keep it on there. But see, it slips off. Where this holds it in place. That's going to get it started. Now look, the noise changed, and that's because we ran into our slide stop. So we're going to push that down just ever so slightly. Now you see I'm using a brass hammer. Brass is not going to mess up your finish, your bluing, or your steel. If you use a steel hammer, you're going to deform this pin, and if you hit anything else, you're going to deform it. Brass is nice, it's very soft compared to steel. Alright, so now we're past that point of our slide stop. Let's send it home. Now you can only go so far with this because it is beveled inside, so therefore we will hit our receiver. So we will have to finish with this. Now I recommend a larger punch in diameter, or if you don't have that, put the punch slightly off to the side so that your punch will run into your receiver, and therefore your pin will be flush and you won't over push your pin out through the other side. There we go, nice and flush. Top hand guard. Now we're going to try to save this rivet because there's no other way to get this off. Okay, let me draw this out for you. So you have a end cap that's retaining your hand guard here. And then you actually have your tube on the inside. Okay, and it drips down like this, and this is solid steel here, so that's your tube. this rivet goes through here, and then they rivet both sides, and then they come back with a grinder and they grind that smooth. So what we're going to try to do is push that rivet out one side where we still have our grinded rivet on one side, and the other side we're going to try to bend that metal over so where it's concave like this. Alright, and then when we go reinstall it, we're going to bend that metal back into a rivet. Now if that doesn't work, unfortunately I will have to bust out the welder, and we're just going to do a spot weld on there, grind it, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. I recommend a pointy punch with a lot of mass on the back end, because if we have a flat punch we won't be able to roll those edges as we push it through. You're also going to want a nice size hammer. This is a rivet. It is in there tight. Now my vise here, the jaws are made of aluminum, which is very soft, so therefore it's not going to damage our bluing or damage our particular steel that we're using here. Now you want to get that in the center, just like that. I had to reposition. The camera's in the way, so it's kind of hard to hit a rivet pretty hard with a hammer when you got a camera in the way. So we started off with this punch, and then I went to this one here. This is a tapered, and it has a a rounded tip to it, and as you can see, that pushed it a little bit in. This got me started, okay, and then this one has more surface area, but it's also helping us roll that metal up, okay. So we're just going to push that a little bit more. I think the camera's going to be in the way, but let's give it a try. Now I can't go too far with this punch because it is tapered. It will get stuck. So we will have to move to a different punch. Now I recommend a skinny, but a punch that has a nice little round crown on the end of it, so that we don't mess up the little ends that we have rolled in. We want to reuse that metal. We're going to put that in the center, and let's see if we can drive this home. Ah, success. Okay, so here's one side of the rivet. Now this one's bent, not uncommon. Most of the ones I've ever taken out are bent. And you see we have a nice concaved area here. So it looks like we're going to have plenty of meat to roll back over to retain this handguard retainer. Now this is going to just wiggle off here. Now don't be scared about this. This is just aluminum. It rubs right off. And if you get aluminum on any of this, you can brush it right off with a plastic brush. Not a big deal. I find that these pieces of wood are directional. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you flip it this way, as you can see, it's too large. It won't fit on the front side. If you flip it the other way, it'll slide right in. Alright, that's what we want, a nice tight fit. We don't want our handguard moving. Let's put this back cap on here. May need to hit this with a hammer. Little taps. This is wood, it will split. Slightly off right here, we'll just tap that a little bit more. Oop. Gotta make sure I'm in frame. through the camera, it looks pretty straight. Alright, we are in line. Okay, if you can see, there's a bulge on the end of this rivet. Now if we try to slide that in, we're going to have friction occur. So I have a ball peen hammer here that I've polished the face of it so I can round this off. The point of this is to make it the same diameter as the pin here for the rivet. If it's larger, it's going to cause friction when we try to insert it. But as you can see, I barely tapped it to roll that edge just a little bit more, but I didn't, beat the crap out of it where we lose that piece of metal that we're trying to save. The pin started. I had to do it off camera, but we're going to use a large flat face punch. We're going to send it till this is flush. I got this set up. So I got two blocks here that's holding up the other end, and I got a little mini vise here that I just have the handguard resting on. That's going to support the opposite side of the rivet. And then I got this punch here that's got a nice dome on it that we're going to roll those edges. Now we're going to finish it off with a flat punch. Alright, now we can see this side is flush, this side has been rolled over, and that is retaining this little handguard cap. Now theoretically you could buy a new rivet, you can rivet that in place, but I find that if you just preserve this metal and roll it over, that just holds that in place. This is all going to be retained inside the rear sight anyway, so it's not going to fall out while you're shooting. You just want it to be retained for when you do maintenance on the gun, that this doesn't all fall apart when you go to clean the gun. Onto the bayonet. Guess what? We get to do the same thing. So this is also a rivet. Now a lot of models it's a screw. Thank God for those. Unfortunately I don't have a screwed in one, so I gotta re-rivet this rivet. That was taken out the same way that we just did with the handguard. So luckily they preserved that. I didn't have to buy another one. Now there's a massive spring behind here, so that's always a joy. So now we've got to fight against a spring as we install this. Alright, we're holding. We have our rivet. We're going to have to send that sucker home. There we go. Alright, so you see the nice brass on there? Oh no, my poor little gun. Gotta put a little elbow grease in there, guys. Look at that, brand new. Same situation here. It's a little bit more dramatic, so for y'all that couldn't really understand or see what we did on the handguard, you can see there's a nice little divot inside of here, and there's metal on the outside. We're just going to roll this metal over, and and that's going to retain that pin from coming out under fire. Alright, after some digging around, this punch here, which is a starting punch, has a nice little curve on the edges, and it actually fits the diameter pretty well. This punch is from Bubba'd. This is a number 4S. I don't know if that's going to help you or not, but that's what it says on there. That fits quite snug, and you tap that. You hear that? That sounds like money. That's our bayonet. Alright, back to our favorite segment. How porky is she? Ooh, we didn't shave that much off. We're looking at 8 pounds 4 ounces. Now we did add the bayonet and the cleaning rod, but we are slightly lighter. Pretty neat project. We got this gun back to somewhat original. If we ever do get the original stock, I'll go ahead and change that out, and then I'll probably throw this stock back up on eBay for someone else to own. Pretty cool. I like the original SKS. I was hoping that we were going to shave a little bit more weight off, but not a big deal. Bayonet works. That just goes up like so. Ready to rock and roll with that if you ever have to roast a pig or something. Pretty cool gun. I like it, and always wanted one. Now I got one. So I hope y'all can go out there and unbubba more SKSs so that we can get them all back to original. As you can see, they're much more reliable in this particular configuration. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube. Till next time.